Hi, welcome to another lesson of Scales and Beyond. Today we're going to be talking about the key of G, or as better known, the key of G major and E minor. So two keys we're going to be talking about and scales about that. Now before we get started, you want to grab two pieces of instructional music. You want to grab your major and minor scales and the family of chords packet. Or hopefully these are several pages part of this packet. Hopefully you stapled them together because we're going to be using a majority of them throughout this series or these lessons on Scales and Beyond. We're going to be talking about the G major scale and then this section right here. Okay. Also, the second piece of paper you want to get is the grid scale pattern for the key of G major or E minor. Very important that you got G major on there and E minor. Okay, very important. Okay, so pause the tutorial, go get those pieces of instruction music and come on back. We'll get started in about a second. Okay, just a little note for you folks, we will not be playing the ukulele today. We're going to be concentrating on the lecture about these family of chords for the key of G major. So by all means, very important to take notes. Grab a pencil, grab a pen, maybe even a highlighter, whatever it takes for you to help you to understand the concept of these family of chords. So let's go over this. You see on this page over here, okay, you got a treble clef, and then you got the information underneath that, which is basically the same thing as you see over here. So let's go over it together so we can try to understand this. Now, oh, by the way, at the bottom of this page, you have this information right here, which is this section right here. You want to write as much notes as you can to help you understand, because in the upcoming tutorials, we're going to be utilizing the scales that we're talking about. Very important you understand this. We left it there for you in this course to make it easier for you. Now, just to let you know, if you're going to be taking more courses on more skill patterns, more advanced skill patterns, you will not have this little note at the bottom of your fretboard grid. So it's very important right now at this stage, you try to take as much notes as you can and really try to understand it. Okay. At the top here, we got the treble clef. We're in the key of G, G major or E minor. And you notice that there's a sharp on that top line, which is the F sharp note. And I left a little note over there reminding you that signifies F sharp. Keep in mind, in music, they don't put the sharps on every note that's supposed to be sharp. So for instance, in the key of G, this line right here is an F. That is to show you that every F note is going to be sharp. For instance, right down here, this space right down here, that's an F note. This space right down here is an F note. You notice there's no sharp. It's because that right there tells you that every F note, whenever you come to any F note, it's a sharp. Okay. You have here the notes of the scale on the treble clef, and then you have the letter notes of the scale. It's lined up with that. It's not really lined up on your paperwork, but make some adjustment, whatever it takes so that you can understand it. In this particular key, which is G major, you got G, next one is A, B, C, D, E. Here we go, F sharp, and then back to G. Next line underneath that, we got the chords in the key of G major and E minor. So we're talking about G major and E minor. Beneath that, we have the family of chords, and at this point in the course, you want to start looking at your chord chart and getting familiar with what the chord looks like. Now, hopefully, at this point in the stage of your learning, this should be a review. Okay, now hopefully, you've completed all the courses to get to this level of learning. If not, then I assume that you have a little background in theory training. If not, then you're really going to have to base your learning on memorizing patterns, looking for patterns, and trying to understand the concept of the patterns or pattern. Okay, let's move on. So we got the family of chords over here. That's your G, A minor, B minor, C, D7, 5/7, dominant 7, E minor, F sharp diminish, G, back to G. Now don't get too concerned about the diminished chords. F sharp or diminished chords in your family of chords. Just know that they exist in your family of chords. If you get into more complicated pieces of music, well, you might have, they might be coming up a little bit more often, but at this stage right now, I really wouldn't worry about them too much. Just know that they're there. Okay, so like I said, try to get to know these chords if you don't already know them. Look at the chord charts that was provided for you, and take the time out when you got a moment. Look at the chords, make sure you know them. At least you're familiar with them. You don't have to be able to play them perfectly, but you got to be familiar with them. In other words, they cannot be brand new to you. You should have seen them before. Okay, beneath that is your Roman numeral chords, family of chords, which is basically signifying on how the chords progress in that family of chords. Okay, these are like generic names, so they can be applied to any key. They can be applied to any key. You just got to know what key you're in. But this here is written out so that it's easier to understand. Now, if you notice, we're following the alphabetical system, so just kind of use that to help you remember and how it works. For instance, you see, I'll just start from the next note so you can see it. A, listen, just like the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, whenever you come to G, you got to repeat the A. Whenever you come to G, you got to repeat the A. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Come to G, got to repeat the A. See, here's the G, got to repeat the A note. Okay, and if you notice, here we go, the chord system kind of corresponds to how the scale system works. So here's your G, that's a G. Here's your A minor chord, it's still an A. B minor chord, here's your B. C, D, here's your D. E minor, here's your E. F sharp diminished, here's your F sharp. Once again, G, and lines up with the final G chord. Okay, now, it's important that you understand the concept. If not, try to look for some kind of pattern that I talked about so it can help you memorize that. Hopefully you've taken all the courses that led you up to this, so this should just be review. It should be no problem, or it should be at least relatively easy to put all the pieces together as you have learned from taking the courses. Now, if need be, you can always go to the website, buonaukulelelessons.com. Look over the website, see like what course you might more apply to you. So in other words, if you're not a beginner, you probably will not have to take a beginning course. Just read the information and see kind of what category you fall in. Now, if you're a beginner, I'm going to recommend you to start at the very beginning and take it from there. Once again, that's www.buonaukulelelessons.com. Okay, moving on. So let's talk about the key of A minor. Now, I wrote out the key of the key of E minor. Let's talk about the key of E minor. It follows the same idea as this right here. So in other words, it has to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, 5, 6, 7, back to the 1 or 8, whatever you want to say. So it has to follow the same kind of formula. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and back to the 1, or you know. Now, a couple of things you got to remember. The name of the chord, so in other words, like G, A minor, B minor, gotta stay pretty much kind of has to stay the same, except for a few chords, and we'll go over them here in just a second. So when we go to the key of E minor, E minor is the first chord in that key. Okay, here it is. So it's a 1 chord, but because it's a minor chord, we mark it off as a little 1, Roman numeral little 1. That's an E minor. The little Roman numerals signify 1. Whenever you see that circle right there, that circle, okay, that circle right there, that means diminished. Now, it has to follow the same numerical pattern. So after 1 is 2. Okay? After 1 is 2 in the number system. And also we're following the alphabetical system, like I said earlier. So after E in the alphabet, after E in the alphabet is the letter F. So we put those two together. E, F. So if you look over here, just look at the letters. E, F, G. When I say after G, you got to repeat the A, B, C, D, and you can see that alphabetical system. And then you're using the number system too. So you got E minor, which is the 1 chord, minor chord. Next is the 2. You need a 2 chord in this key. If we look where the F sharp is, where's the F sharp? It's right there. It's a diminish. It's the 7th chord in this key. But the main thing we want to remember is that we cannot change the name of it. So it's a 2 diminished F sharp. Next we need a 3 chord. Here it is right here. Back in this key it's a major chord. So it becomes a major 3. Major 3. And then we need a 4 chord. If we look at the alphabet system, E, F, G, A. A comes after G. Also 4 chord. We look back over here. Oh, A minor. We got to keep the minor. So we got a minor 4. 5 chord. It's always, usually, most of the time, a 5/7 chord. Okay, so whatever it was before, it's going to be a 5/7. So whatever B was a B minor. But your 5 chords got to change to 5/7. So this changes to a 5/7. Okay, in the key of E minor. Next, here we got a 6 major. Okay, because the number 6 comes after the number 5. So let's look why. Oh, here we go. Because the C is a major chord. The C is a major chord. That's why the 6th chord over here is a major. And back here in the key of G minor, G major, this 6th chord is a minor. Okay? So we got to keep the name of the chord, the actual chord. 6th chord is a C major. Now, here's where it's might get a little confusing, but just think of it as major and minor. Just think of it as major and minor. So we're moving on to the 7th chord, the 7th chord, and we look back over here. The D is a dominant 7, 5/7, but you see how it's a big Roman numeral number 5? That means it comes from the family of major chords. That's why it's a major D chord. Okay, it's not a minor chord. And then if you went one more over, it would be E minor. So a little 1 over here. I just didn't have room to write it. Okay. Now at this point, for some of you folks, this might be getting a little confusing, a little frustrating, a little bit unclear, whatever the case may be. You need to stop the tutorial right here, back it up, listen to it again, try to understand it. Okay. All this stuff would be easier to understand if you have previous training or musical education. However, keep in mind, this is the crash course of getting to understand the family of chords before we get into how to use the scales with the different ways that you can use it and how to use it, how, when, and where to use it. That's the main idea. So the bottom line is this. You're wanting to learn scales. You're going to reach your goal of learning the scales. You can either reach your goal sooner or later. Okay? The more you know at the basic foundation, the sooner you're going to get there. So in other words, the more you know about this, the sooner you're going to get to your destination or your goal. The less you know about this, it's going to take a little longer because you got to basically go on the fact that you have to memorize patterns, and then understand the concept of those patterns. Okay, so those are the ways to do it. Once again, if you have not taken the previous courses, I think some personal study or personal research might be necessary. Or you can go to the website www.bonaukulelelessons.com and figure out, which courses you can take it in coincide with taking this course. It'll help you understand it a whole lot better. Also important, I talked about this in the beginning, make sure that you take opportunity or a moment when you got a chance to look through the chords and the family chords so you're familiar with them. So when we go on to the next tutorial or the upcoming tutorial on how to use the scales, how to use the grid, okay, it's going to be much easier to understand. And hopefully you took some notes right down here. It's very, very important that you go back, watch this tutorial again, add some notes over here to help you understand whatever it takes that you, so that you can really understand this concept, because it'll be right here on this paper as we talk about the grid and the scale patterns in the upcoming tutorial on how to use the scale patterns for the key of G and E minor. Okay. Oh, I'm not sure if I went over this, but just in case I didn't, when you're looking through the chord chart, the F sharp diminish, the F sharp diminish, the F sharp diminish on your chord chart is written as G flat diminish. So if you're looking up F sharp diminish, how to make the chord, you need to look under G flat diminish, and that's the same chord. So in other words, G flat diminish and F sharp diminish are the same chords, just different ways of saying it. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're looking up your chords. Okay, very important to watch and listen to this tutorial multiple times. Okay, it needs to be as clear as possible before moving on. At the very least, it should make at least a little bit of sense to you before moving on to the next tutorial where we show you how to use the scales within the family of chords. If not, it might be a little confusing. Okay, so with that being said, watch the tutorial as many times as you need. Take notes, please take notes and put it on your musical instruction papers. And then when you're finally ready, at least reasonably comfortable with the information, and we'll see you for the next lesson, and we'll start showing you how to use the scales on ukulele. Okay, so we'll see you then.